This is Adam Carey. Today I'm doing my presentation on Google Maps. I use Google Maps a lot in my daily life outside of the classroom. It's very useful. You can download the application on your phone, and just type in the location that you want to go to. And then you can start from a starting point. You can type out the starting point on your phone, or you can use the phone, um, like GPS within the phone can get your current location, and you can just search for the destination you want to go to, and it will give you step-by-step process on how to go there while you're driving. It's an amazing app. It's amazing technology. um, but I guess I'm going to skip a few slides and start from the very beginning, um, of Google Maps. Google Maps started back in 2004. Originally, it wasn't Google Maps. It was but the idea was created by Lars and Jens Rasmussen. They're two Danish brothers. They had their own company, Where2 Technologies. Their idea was originally to have the program, that would later become Google Maps, be separated off the web. You would have to download the software by either like a DVD, or not a DVD, but a CD, or download it off the web, and then you could search, for certain maps, certain locations off the web. But this idea was, scrapped, when it was acquired by Google, and it became web based. So that way, everybody has access to it. You don't have to download it, the program. You don't have to pay a fee to download it. It's free to everybody, which is really nice for educational purposes. I don't have to pay a licensing fee or anything like that to use it within the classroom. And my plan to use it in the classroom is to take my kids on virtual field trips. They can get a true sense of the world, how big it is, how far away places are, so a true sense of distance. They can experience different cultures from right from their desk in my classroom. They don't have to, um, travel anywhere. And then I'm going to go back a couple slides, because I was fortunate enough to grow up in Orlando, Florida. And as a kid, I was fortunate enough to go to the theme parks in Disney World in Florida. And one of the theme parks was Epcot. And as a kid, we would take field trips here. But this was like my version of Google Maps back in the day before Google Maps was around. Because I was born in 1991. Epcot's been around, I believe, since the 80s. So this was my version of what Google Maps would be for like the kids today. If I wanted to see what Mexico was like, I could go to the Mexico within the theme park Epcot. I could go to Norway. I could go to China. It would take some time. It would take like 10 minutes, to walk from one country to another in this scenario. But using Google Maps, I can go from Mexico to Norway instantly within seconds. I don't have to, take the 30 or 45 minutes to travel there if I was in Orlando. Obviously, we're in Sioux Falls, so this wouldn't be, a really good scenario either, for, kids in my classroom because I plan on teaching in Sioux Falls. But, anyways, to get back to the point, so this was like my version of Google Maps. Uh, if I wanted to see what the cultures were like, I could go to the German portion of Epcot. And Epcot and Disney was actually pretty good about hiring, ethnic people from those countries and bringing them over to the Epcot theme park and having them work there. So I could actually, if I wanted to, I could speak broken German or broken French with an actual French person or an actual German person, not German person, German person in the Germany section of Epcot. So that was really cool for me growing up as a kid. Like, I'm glad I grew up there and got to experience that. But, fortunately for kids today, you don't have to live 30 minutes outside of Orlando. You could live in Sioux Falls. And if I wanted to, I could actually take the kids on a tour of Epcot. but why do that when I could go anywhere in the world with Google Maps? But so I'm gonna play a quick tutorial, a beginner's guide on how to use Google Maps. And then after that, I'll actually go into Google Maps and give you a tour of some places. And then I'll go over a handout of what activity I would have the kids in my classroom do. So here's the video for the tutorial.
Video is the beginner's guide to using Google Maps. And if you haven't used this before, really you shouldn't be intimidated at all for you to use it. It's really a nice, helpful tool, and it's pretty easy to use. So let's take a look. First off, we're going to go to maps.google.com, and then we'll set up this is Google Maps. Maps, this will set up a path for the place that you're interested in. So I'm going to go around that quite slow to the side. So let's go to the search for quite slow, type in, and it's going to zoom all the way slow. And we'll just say, it gives you an image here and a half, it gives you the whole and so on quite slow. Now, if I have to use the phone now, and mouse the zoom on it, then it puts up a phone here, that's quite slow. You can also double click. Anything that's a double click on, will get zoomed in. And then if I go to example, the zoom on it, then now I'm going to look at the zoom. Now notice that bottom left hand of the screen has a button which is included to search for Google Maps here to pull that link here. And it will say that Maps comment button over there that will see. So it just depends on what your preference is, whether you want the Maps here or the link here. But to be honest, I think really most people that love Google Maps, it's not so much to learn about the world and learn about geography and things like that. It's rather to get directions from one place to another. And so it can do that at different areas. And this is this image of kind of Clarksville and some quick facts about Clarksville. It's not so much as for directions, but also stat analysis across the area and what kind of shots, for example. Now, most people are just looking at directions, and whether I go to Philly, Minnesota, and set the direction, and this will enter, and this follows the quickest route, it also does that.
So outside of the classroom, this is the feature that I use the most, just to get directions of places. But at the beginning of the video, he gives a quick tutorial on how to go to Google Maps. So I'm just going to pretend I'm going to kind of follow that guideline. We're going to start at the Google homepage. Going to look up Google Maps. Click there. So usually it will go to where you're based off or based out of. So it goes to Sioux Falls because my IP address is in Sioux Falls, so Google Maps already knows that I'm most likely going to be using their service to look up certain locations in Sioux Falls. But um, lucky day, I'm actually not for this example. Um, so let's actually go to Epcot in on the web, not in person, but so this is what it would look like, in a map version. But if I wanted to see what it would look like more of like a looking down from space, I could just hit the satellite view. And then so I was describing Epcot earlier, but instead of actually having to live close to Epcot, now with technology, we can actually look at Epcot um, on the internet. So I was kind of talking about the certain locations, like the German Pavilion on the right here, hovering it or circling it with my mouse. So the crazy thing about Google Maps is this one feature where I can just drag this little guy down here. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's set places on the map that I can just drop him. And so just do that. And so this is what it would actually look like at the theme park. Google does a pretty good job of blurring out people's faces for privacy. But so instead of me having to describe what somewhere looks like, I can take the kids there on a virtual field trip. So, I mean, I loved going to this place as a kid. So, some of the times you can just click further on the video and go further down the street. But in this case, I clicked on it. And so we actually went inside a restaurant, and you can get a quick cultural view of what it would be like to actually be in this restaurant in the German section of Epcot. But if we wanted to go and actually look what it would be like to actually be in Germany, I can just go back out a little bit. And since I'm going to be teaching history, let's go to a historical place in Germany, Auschwitz. So this was a death camp used by Hitler and the Nazis during World War II to, commit one of the worst crimes in human history, with the final solution in exterminating German fellow Germans, Jews, um, mentally disabled people, homosexuals. But anyways, if I wanted to take my kids on a field trip instead of like reading about Auschwitz in a book, you can get a sense of what it's actually like to be there by just going to Google Maps and doing a street view. We can get out of street view and go back into a more broad view and just zoom out. Um, Sorry about the delay in the audio, but and get a idea of just how big of a place this actually was. Um, it's just a huge. These obviously where the little huts or little houses would have been for the workers. Um, you can just get a sense of how big this place was and how many people were killed here. So sorry, I have the hiccups. To get back to the presentation portion of it, I have a handout that I would give my students um, to look up famous battles in World War II. So they would use Google Maps to do this. I would want 5 famous world battles. So Omaha Beach is the location of one of the beaches for the D-Day invasion. Um, so Google Maps doesn't really give a distance. It does for short distances from like here, from like Sioux Falls to Omaha. It would give a distance. But if I wanted to do from Sioux Falls to Omaha Beach, it usually just gives it in like how long it would take to fly there. So for this example, I would use World War II locations, and those are usually overseas. So they would have to give the hours from Sioux Falls to the location. I just want to use Google Maps so the kids get an understanding of how far away these places actually are. Like you can read it in a book and just think Omaha Beach in France. Well, the kids today they're like, oh, it's only like a 8 hour plane flight from the U.S. from France, but in reality, it's a lot longer than that because we're in Sioux Falls. And it's important for them to realize just how big the world is and just how um, many people there are and how different cultures are. So Google Maps would be a great tool to bring into the classroom to use that, um, just so that they get a better understanding of how the world actually is. So in the activity, I would have them post a location. I give instructions on how to like post the pictures because I want them to get a picture from the location. Like I got that picture from Omaha Beach. So if we go back to the Auschwitz example, they could zoom in and get like an actual picture of like the site here. Like this would be an acceptable picture. Or they could go to Street View and go inside the camp itself and see what it would look like to be a prisoner behind one of these barbed wire fences. So, I mean, there's a lot of famous pictures. Like, you can actually see the pictures here at the site, which is crazy, of people being lined up, to be slaughtered, um, or to be rescued when the U.S. soldiers actually arrived. Or, I don't know if it was the U.S. soldiers or the Soviets that liberated them, but it's just a great tool for history, just to get a more sense of the world and not just read it in a textbook. So that's why I plan on using Google Maps, is just to stay within the classroom but be able to venture outside the classroom.